Want to know the secret for perfect piecing every time? Squaring your blocks. Stick around for a few minutes and I'll show you how it's done. Hi everyone, I'm Paula from Lakeshore Quilt Company. Do you have a masterpiece in mind that you'd like to create? I hope any inspiration and guidance I show you today will help you along the way. If you like what you see, please hit that subscribe button below. Today I want to talk to you about squaring up blocks. One of the biggest challenges that new piecers sometimes struggle with is actually making their blocks fit with one another or itself. As you can see in this block is made up of many different squares. In order for those squares to match up perfectly, they all need to be the same size. So squaring, let's talk about it today. What is it and how do we do it? Let's get started. So let's take this beautiful block for an example here today. When you are piecing a project together, you need to make sure that every single one of your segments is the right size. In order for a project to lay flat, your consistency with seam allowances and your sizes of your original pieces all matter. So let's talk about squaring. Squaring is basically the process of taking a piece or a group of pieces and making sure that all four sides are the exact same size, or that all four sides are the correct size for your project. Some of the tools that you're going to need to square properly are squaring rulers. This set of OmniGrid squaring rulers that I have here, it comes in 4 different sizes. There's 12.5, 9.5, 6.5, and a 4.5. These I find are just perfect for any kind of squaring that I need to do. You will find the link in the description below. Using this example of this little 4-patch here, in order for this 4-patch to match up really nice all along the edges here, I need to make sure that I use 4 squares that are the exact same size. You'll lay them out and you'll sew them together. First in rows and then you sew the rows together. Once your 4-patch is created, now you need to make sure that this is square. Let me show you how that's done. I'm going to use my 6.5-inch squaring tool right now, and I'm going to use my secret weapon, Scotch tape. What I like to do when I am squaring blocks is I like to put a little piece of Scotch tape in 2 places to help me keep my ruler in place. So this particular block is going to get squared to 4 inches. So I'm going to make sure that my tape is at the 1-inch mark here and just before the 4-inch mark so that it's not in my way. I'm then going to just take a little bit of this sticky out just by rubbing my hand up against it. I just take a little bit out so it's not so aggressive. So I'm going to basically look at my ruler here, and you're going to see on this ruler there is a line that goes from corner to corner. Make sure that any squaring tool that you get definitely has this line that goes from corner to corner. It's very important. I want to square this to 4 inches. This is going to get squared to 4 inches, that this seam needs to be at my 2-inch mark. I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to throw the 2-inch mark along this seam and along this seam. And then I'm also going to make sure that this diagonal line lands right in this corner here. All right. From there, I'm just going to give a little bit of pressure to the 2 pieces of tape. Now, if my ruler slips, if I move, my block is still in place. Put a little bit of pressure onto my ruler, use my rotary cutter, and trim away those edges. And you can see that I actually moved that a little bit. It's okay because that tape is holding everything in place. Take this, let's line it up again. This time on this final cut, I'm going to go ahead and use my 4-inch mark and line that up with the 2 edges that I just trimmed away. And I'm going to make sure that this seam and this seam are still lined up on that 2-inch mark. Put a little bit of pressure where my tape is. And with the sharp rotary blade, I'm going to trim those pieces away. That block is now perfectly square and ready to use in my quilt or my project. Let's look at another block now and square this guy up. So this block is already pieced. I made sure that all of my 9 pieces here were all the same size. I pieced my block together. Now I'm going to take my ruler. I'm going to use my 12.5 this time. And I want to make sure that this block is squared to 10 inches. As you can see here, it's much bigger than that. So I want to look at a couple of different things with this block. As I set my ruler down here and I know I want this block to finish at 10 inches, it looks like I'm going to have to cut away a little bit over 1/4 of an inch all the way around. This ruler really helps me look at the squareness of this block. I can look at this diagonal line and notice where the diagonal line is landing on these points. I can also take a look at these star legs and see how far each star leg is from a main line. So you can see here, each of these star legs is 1/4 of an inch away, and here is 1/4 of an inch away. So that's going to help me as well. My diagonal line is still straight across the center there. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take 2 pieces of tape, and I'm going to place one here at the 1-inch mark on the bottom side. And I'm going to take the other piece here, and I'm going to put that at the 9-inch mark on the bottom side of my ruler. And then I'm going to go ahead and just tap that right on my arm here and just take a little bit of that sticky out, okay? All right, let's set this back down again. You can see, because I took some of that sticky out, I can still move this ruler. All right, so I'm going to look at this diagonal line going through here at these 2 points. I'm going to make sure that all of my star legs are about 1/4 of an inch away, just like that. And when I have this ruler set exactly where I want it, I'm going to go ahead and put just a little bit of pressure on both of those pieces of tape. Okay, so now you're going to see that my block is attached to my ruler. Put a little bit of pressure on my ruler, and with the sharp rotary blade, cut those edges away. Just lift this up. I'm going to use my rotating mat here to turn this. And now I know this is going to set at 10 inches. So I'm going to set this down. I'm only looking at this line now, the edge that I just cut away. I'm going to line up on my 10-inch mark. Once I think I have that down, I'm going to notice, is my diagonal line still in the right places? Are my star legs still in the right places? It looks great. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of pressure on that tape again. Put my hand on my ruler and cut these 2 edges away. And what I'm left with here is a perfect 10-inch by 10-inch block. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, post a comment below, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single step in future videos. Love what you see? Don't forget to join me live on Twitch for interactive tutorials and real-time fun, Monday through Wednesday. You'll find my channel link in the description below. So let's talk about the next type of block that sometimes will get beginner piecers a little mixed up. A lot of times we see these wonderful ideas for foundation piecing, where you take a background square and then you sew pieces onto that, and then they tell you to just use your background square as a means to cut away the excess. Don't necessarily fall for that trick, okay? I want you to always look and make sure that that background square didn't shrink, because they tend to do exactly that. I'm going to grab my 9.5-inch ruler here, and I'm just going to set this down on what used to be a 9-inch background square. This background square is no longer 9 inches. It's actually a little short. It's about 1/8 of an inch short on this side, and it's crooked on this side completely, and it's definitely short down here. I'm going to go ahead and get a piece of tape, and I'm going to put it at my 1-inch mark on the bottom here, and then I'm going to put this guy on my 8-inch mark on the underside here. Let's take out some of that sticky. It really does help, because then you can move that ruler around without too much trouble. And I'm going to set this guy down. Just start in an upper corner here. And I'm going to give myself a little bit of wiggle room on all the corners. Now I'm going to turn this over. This is kind of a wonky block to begin with. I don't think I'm going to be too picky about it. I'm just going to kind of make sure that it looks good where I have it. I think that's good. And I'm going to go ahead and just give that a little press and cut away these two edges. Let me flip this around. Line up these two edges over here. Put a little bit of pressure on that tape. And then cut away these two edges. Now I have a perfect 9-inch block. Here and here, and then make sure that that's still going right down the center. It is. Give a little bit of pressure to my tape and trim away the excess. Perfect 8-inch block. Now let's take one last peek at our beautiful 25 patch block here. I started this block with 25 squares that were all the same size. I always want to make sure that I double check that my block is still square. This block should finish at 10.5 inches. If my seam allowances were consistent, I should be just fine. So I am definitely a little bit over, just a skosh, on a couple of these sides here. I need to square this. I am going to go ahead and take a look at my diagonal line here and make sure that that diagonal line meets all of these points along this direction. I'm going to make sure that everything is at 10.5 or over. Put a little bit of pressure on my tape and clean up any edges that are hanging over. This little bits will make a difference in your piecing, so make sure that that is removed. I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to line this up, the 10.5-inch mark. Make sure that this diagonal line is meeting all the points it needs to. Put a little bit of pressure on my tape and cut away any of the excess. Now my block is absolutely ready to go to the next step. If you have blocks with little bits like this extra throughout your entire project, those little bits start to add up, and your project could do several different things. It could not lie flat. It can make it so your points don't match, and it could cause puckering along your seams if you are trying to match your points. So if you run into any problems like that, stop what you're doing and make sure, double check that you have actually squared your blocks appropriately. I sure hope that this little talk about squaring blocks, why it's important, has helped you. As beginners, I want you guys to have nothing but success with all of your projects moving forward. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I can't wait to see you guys next time. Until then, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Happy quilting. Bye, everyone.